Pier 17 in the South Street Seaport District of Manhattan, and brought to you by Delicious Heinekens. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, Anthony Davis put up 50 points against the Timberwolves, and he did it without making a single three-point shot. Jalen Rose, what do you think about him going old school and getting 50 without hitting a three?
Well, the Lakers are operating like a well-oiled machine, and players have fallen into their roles. The guys like Danny Green, who are shooters, they spot up and take their open opportunities when they come. But this is all about those two gentlemen right there, playing like two of the top 5 players in the game. This is why you put those guys together. And we felt like it was going to be seamless because LeBron James is one of the best passers that the league has seen, who's also a terrific scorer and improved shooter to the point where when he gets hot, it's really good. It's really impressive to watch him knock down threes. And then all of a sudden, Anthony Davis, you insert him into the mix, the drop pass for pick and rolls. You could give it to him on the block. He can spin out for lobs. He does it in the half court. He does it in transition. He's a complete basketball player, and playing with LeBron is unlocking that greatness in his game.
And, you know, I don't like to compliment you too much, but you did make a really good point last week about load management and LeBron James. The best thing to do is to get a big lead and then sit out those minutes in the fourth quarter. And what the Lakers are doing now that LeBron wasn't used to, especially in Cleveland, they maintain the lead when he's on the bench. Like, that's something that he hasn't been able to do. He had to play so many minutes for that Cleveland team, so many games for that Cleveland team. And with this Lakers team, they find a way to sometimes expand leads when he is not in the game. And Jalen, I want to show you something that he did to Gorgie Dang. I want to show you because LeBron can still get up and down the floor and can still get up off the floor. Look at this dunk right here. Tell me what you see.
Gorgie Jang, the walk of shame. It's when you go into shoot around at 9 in the morning and you seeing people leave that had on the clothes from the night before. That's what Gorgie Jang has to do after this dunk by LeBron James with ferocity. But I have to say this too. Jang playing alongside Karl Anthony Towns reminded me of the luxury that Anthony Davis now has. Remember, so many people were assassinating the character of one Rob Pelinka, and I was one person standing on the table to defend him. But there's certain lineups where you could be like, okay, we'll put AD at the 4 because he doesn't always like to play the 5. So we could throw Dwight Howard in there, who's been Defensive Player of the Year. We could throw JaVale McGee in there. So they can throw so many bodies at a player like Karl Anthony Towns that allows Anthony Davis to really focus on his offense and go to work.
I mean, AD had 50, LeBron James had 32 and a big dunk. He had 13 assists, but nothing happened in the Staples Center that was more important than this from Lizzo. Let's check in on the Grammy-nominated Lizzo on the sidelines at courtside.
Lizzo, I know you live in LA now. You spent some time in Minnesota. Who are you cheering for tonight in this basketball game?
Let me tell you something. Both teams are great. I'm personally cheering for number 32.
Karl Anthony Towns?
Mm-hmm.
That's your guy?
That's my baby.
Okay. You know him?
Nope.
Not yet.
I love it so much. There's so much I want to discuss here, but number one, she said that right in front of LeBron James. You saw LeBron James listening in when you see the clip. What do you think about Lizzo shooting her shot at Karl Anthony Towns at the Lakers game?
Come on, Bron. Stop ear hustling. Stop being nosy. Thinking that she gonna change her answer because you standing there. That's one. Number two, she was born in Detroit, so she gonna stand on what she does. And also, we should play the footage of her on the Jumbotron when she twerked it, big girl, small world style, and turned around and her bottom was out. Literally. I wish we would have showed that footage on the show. And lastly, I ain't mad at her having a good time sitting front row. Coconut oil is what her backside needed. That's the name of one of her songs.
Jalen, you know exactly why we're not playing that footage. Do not get us canceled, okay? Do not get us canceled. If you didn't see Lizzo's outfit to the Laker game last night, you should definitely look that up. Don't do it from work. Big shout out to Lizzo. Moving on, do you remember on Friday night when the Thunder were down by 2 points with 1.1 seconds left and Chris Paul saw Jordan Bell check into the game without his shirt tucked? So then what does Chris Paul do? He gets a delay of game call that ended up being key and the Thunder would win in overtime. Well, last night, the refs turned the tables on him.
Chris Paul said,
You're going to be on SportsCenter tonight. Good job.
So now we have the refs calling not one, but 2 delay of game calls on Chris Paul in the following game from when he got one on Jordan Bell. Do you think the refs were singling out Chris Paul and making a point?
Obviously they were, but I want to make a bigger point. It was a mistake for the officials to give Jordan Bell basically a game change and delay a game to put them on the free throw line when they played against Oklahoma. I don't care what Chris Paul knew about the rule. That was not the time to put them on the free throw line at that pivotal point of the game. So now you create a unique domino. Are we going to start calling this on a nightly basis?
Yep.
I watch a lot of basketball, and I see Kyrie's jersey hanging out all of the time. I can name you 50 players, including myself, who used to always have his jersey hanging out. So you try and tell me that that's going to be something? Is that what we doing here? So I don't like going down that path.
I don't like it either. And I think it's like Chris Paul, he's obviously, he knows the rules. He's a veteran. He's part of the group that's sort of like the competition committee or whatever. But here's the thing. He's checking into the game. So if you're checking into the game and the ref calls you in, then you cannot have an untucked jersey. That's how specific we are. Also, when the ref calls you into the game, it's a dead ball. So you're not even delaying the game. Like, it's just kind of silly to me, this whole thing. And I agree with you. The refs should not have made that call. And I also agree that they specifically singled him out to give him 2 delay of game calls in one game. And he was right. They did end up on SportsCenter. Jalen, you remember how I went against the stretch Mark 5 Nikola Jokic last week because he had not had 20 points? Well, he had not 1, but 2 games over 20 points. The stretch Mark 5 trying to get me back on that bandwagon, but I'm not going on the bandwagon, Nikola Jokic. The stretch Mark 5, let's take a look at his last 2 games versus the previous 5. You'll see a huge difference.
I see you, Joker.
All it takes is a trip to New York if you want to get some numbers. That's all it takes. You want to get some numbers? Just take a little trip to New York, play the Knicks, play the Nets, and you'll see what happens. What do you think about the return of the stretch Mark 5?
And don't forget about the Celtics, who he also put up big numbers against. The problem is in losing efforts. Don't leave that part out. And so that sometimes is what happens. Teams playing pretty well, best player struggling. Best player gets going, team isn't playing as efficient. Now when they're able to put it all together, you'll be back on the bandwagon. Don't be jumping off the Joker's bandwagon. You such a Die Easy fan. You just mad because when you take off your shirt, it looks like his. And now you want to make it his fault when you go play rec games and you score 0 or your team loses the championship. You want to take it out on the Joker.
Noah called me the MVP, and don't you dare mention my rec league team and losing a championship, because we have a big game on Wednesday night. Jalen, please. And you know what? I look better than Jokic with my shirt off. I've been working out, doing some yoga. Just don't even say that anymore. Jalen, Ravens and the Bills in Buffalo. The Ravens made another statement against one of the best teams in the AFC. We'll break down Lamar Jackson and
we're
much
gonna need
more
some
from the
rec
NFL
league footage
right after this.
Primarily their pass rush. Second thing you think about is their number 1 or number 2 rushing attack. Third thing you think about is the play calling of Kyle Shanahan. Fourth thing you think about is Kittle, who might be the best tight end in football. Because he's just as gifted as Travis Kelce, but he blocks better. But I love my brother, Travis Kelce now. And then we got that situation with Deebo Samuels. And Emmanuel Sanders may have been the biggest pickup you could find when he was ultimately traded from Denver. Look, you got to give credit where credit is due. I said you thought about all those things before you thought about Jimmy G. Porn star Jimmy became Jimmy G now. And we got to call him Jimmy G because he earned that nickname yesterday. Flat out balling. That was a big-time performance by Jimmy Garoppolo. Make no mistake about it. And he deserves our credit and our respect. And you got to elevate him in the eyes of the San Francisco 49ers if you're a potential opponent, because you got to find a way to neutralize him because the brother doesn't lose too many games. Jimmy Garoppolo, in his career as a starter, is 19-4 in 25 games. 19-4. I don't know how you get around that. 2-0 with New England, 17-4 with San Francisco. He's 19-4 overall as a starter in the National Football League. I can't ignore that. Can't ignore the job John Lynch is doing. Can't ignore the job that Kyle Shanahan is doing. Can't just forget and engage in selective amnesia, forgetting that the two-time Super Bowl champion that is Mike Shanahan is the proud papa of Kyle Shanahan. Now, we could point to nepotism all we want to, because certainly there's a plethora of people that don't get those opportunities in the National Football League, but it doesn't take away from the greatness of Mike Shanahan that was. The tutelage and counsel he passed down to his son, and how his son is doing a sensational job. As far as I'm concerned, Coach of the Year honors this season belongs to two people: Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. You could go to Baltimore Ravens route if you want to with John Harbaugh this year. But I think that's taken care of with Lamar Jackson getting league MVP honors, which I believe he will get. And speaking of league MVP honors, as it pertains to Lamar Jackson, let me be very, very clear as to why I think the race is over. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to catch him. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to catch him. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to catch him. I'm going to tell you why. Lamar Jackson, over the last 5 games, has not even thrown for 250 yards. Over the last 3 games, he hasn't even thrown for 200 yards. But he's still the leading candidate, according to Vegas odds, to capture league MVP honors. Why is that? Ladies and gentlemen, because he's the leading rusher for the number 1 rushing offense in the National Football League, that is the Baltimore Ravens.